everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Going Over podcast. We got to be at 97 now, ladies and gentlemen. It is your neighborhood-friendly coach, trainer, promoter, a 44-year-old professional wrestler, Zack Primetime Reeb. Swipe that off the screen, and I'm joined alongside, as always, my podcast partner, the 7-foot wrecking ball, Paul Isadora. Paul, welcome, my friend.
Oh, what's up, man? It's another Sunday, and for anybody who knows me at all, they know Sundays is for podcasting, and Sundays is for family dinner. So if you think that I'm going to go to anything else on a Sunday, any events, anything like that, you are sadly mistaken.
Sadly mistaken, bud.
That's right.
You know, we always talk about storytelling, man. I'm coming off of one of the greatest World Series ever, and a story that not even Steven Spielberg could have wrote the end of this story last night, man. I'm sitting here, I'm blazing, man. I'm hoping for Vladdy Jr. to win that, and the Jays to win that World Series and take that ring home to Bad Vladdy, his dad. We're 2 outs away, and a guy comes up to the plate who hasn't had a fucking hit in over a month, and he hits a solo home run to tie it up, and then they close down the Jays, and we go to 11 innings, then another solo home run, three solo home runs at the end. Big bad Vladdy Jr. goes 0 for 5. It's, you know, he had the best postseason ever up until game 6 and 7 when it was time to close out. So that Kobe Bryant statement, 2 up in the finals, and they say, Kobe, why aren't you happy? And he said, job ain't done. Job ain't done. He had a similar thought too, but he's not Kobe Bryant. He's not the Black Mamba. He's not the ice cold killer, brother. He's not the ice cold killer. So I'm not even a Blue Jays fan, and I'm still bothered by that. So I can only imagine what's going on in fucking Toronto today.
Right, I'm sure. I didn't see anything except for yesterday. I always watch this. I don't know. It's some baseball commentary where it's like, looked like the ball got caught in the wall, which would normally be a ground rule double, and looks like the umpire came out and it's like, no, it's all good. And then looked like he pried it out with his hand. It was like, it looked like the ball was caught in there, but
Dead
I don't
ball.
know what was the circumstance on that.
Dead ball, man. Hits in there, dead ball.
I thought it was an inside the park home run.
No.
No.
Dead ball. Stop where it lies. So two runners that would have scored and tied the game in game 6 were sent back out, and that's what it was. I don't even think it was a ground rule double. I think a ground rule double is where the ball bounces in fair play and goes over the fence. When it hits like that and there's a little bit of damage and the ball comes to a stop, even if you can still grab it, that's a dead ball. So runners on first and second get stopped on second and third, which both guys should have scored. Hey, whatever, man. I'm not going into it. You know, a lot going on yesterday. The World Series was going on. Saturday night's main event was going on. CM Punk finally won the championship. I sent you a botched neck breaker spot. I don't know how you botch a slow, not even a swinging neck breaker. Just right. Maybe he was trying to bring it back around. And
I mean, it wasn't even the roll in the hay.
Yeah, Jade Cargill with the dominant victory over Tiffany Stratton. According to it's no longer Tiffy time, but according to Jade Cargill previously on SmackDown, it's no longer Taffy time, is what we got from that. You know, she wants to be a superstar, but she doesn't even know what the champion's name is. Hey, it's Taffy Stratton. Hey, Taffy Stratton, I'm gonna beat you for that. Now we got Jade Cargill as the champion, and it's the worst case scenario you can imagine. We have a wrestler who cannot have a good match and deliver with the championship belt. So good luck. The Performance Center is going to have a lot of choreography going on in the next few weeks. But then I got a real treat. And this is what I really wanted to talk about, because this is stuff I want to really get into. Is I'm just laying on my bed scanning through, an old Sparky Ballard's news feed pops up. And at 7 o'clock, there is a link to a live stream on YouTube of West Coast Pro Wrestling, how the West was won 7th year anniversary. and I tuned in and I watched, from the comfort of my own home. And I just wanted to kind of talk about some stuff that happened on that card. The opener, I could have a lot of criticism about the opener. It was these 3 Mexican guys, Los Jevutes, or I forgot what their name was. I don't mean to bury it or anything, but they took on 3 West Coast Pro students in an opening 6-man, which that's very hard to do. The show was sold out. We had a hard cam, we had a regular cam, we had live commentary, we had some shots in the back, and I thought it was a good little opener, man. They put over the young undead, or the young dead. The couple guys Sparky was telling me about, EDK and Michael Moore. There was another guy out there, but the crowd popped for the finish, and it was nice to see another company on a platform like that, because I think when I started watching, there was 119 watching, and by the time I got to, there were 3 women's matches, and 2 of these women's matches were bangers, bro. They were bangers, bro. But then there was 333 people watching, so I thought it was a very good show, man. I thought it was very good. I like the flow of Alpha Zoe versus Andrew Cass. But I have a few things I want to talk about on the card quickly. I'll get into the one thing I wanted to talk about was with the Zoe and the Andrew Cass match. Zoe was just very confident, very focused. It looked in the story, the commentators are getting this over, and he's very dominant. Like he's really putting it to Andrew Cass, and Andrew Cass is doing a very good job of selling this until the comeback. Once he knew, he was dead. He was dead. I was believing this, right? And then the comeback hit, and this kid went from what we like to talk about all the time, 0 to hero, man. He started hitting the greatest hits, and I didn't watch the end of the match because I kind of was in and out of some of this stuff, but very good presentation, very good commentary. And, that's just one thing I was noticing about that match was that, 0 to hero. I was liking what I was seeing. If I could give that one any critique, it was that he came back and didn't sell what he was selling before. And it wasn't even like a moderation sell, because before Zoe was really beating the fucking dog shit out of him. So he was like limp armed. I can't pull myself up selling, and then just shot straight 0 to hero. So that's something I want to talk about a little bit later on that. Did you catch any of this?
I didn't know that this thing was happening, but when you said that there was going to be a critique and you were talking about Andrew Cass, I think the things that I've watched with him is very similar with that. It is very much, we talk so much about offensive selling, and that's my big critique with that guy is that it's almost like you forgot that you're getting your ass kicked, obviously I didn't see the match, but as soon as you said that you had a critique, that was going to be my first inkling was going to be, I bet you he didn't sell on his comeback, or when he got on offense, he wasn't selling anymore. Very predictable when it comes to that. But I feel like that's very, I don't know. That's kind of the way that it is with a lot of the younger guys now, You know what? That reminds me of, I just watched Ugly talking about storytelling, right?
Psychology. I saw
psychology,
that.
Yeah, psychology. And it's like, oh well, we don't need psychology because we're giving away the business and we're showing people how things are done and all this different stuff. But what is your ideas about that? Like, because the example that he gave was something along the lines is, if you're a mat wrestler and you're following a match that was a comedy match or something along those lines, And I thought this would be a perfect question for you, because you can argue both sides, because you're a master debater, so I figured this is one of those things that, a good question for you specifically, because you hold that title. And I just thought it would be something that you could argue for either side. And I feel like I can do the same, so my first thought was, and I put this, when Ugly said, "What do you think?" My first response was, well, if you're a good mat wrestler and you can tell a story, then it shouldn't matter what type of match you're following, right? Because you'll be able to get the crowd into it if you're good enough at it. So, do you think that argument of we don't need psychology because people are not using psychology and they're still getting paid a lot of money and making a living and making a shit ton of money and all this stuff? What is your opinion on that? Is it a cop out because you're not good enough to tell a good enough story psychology wise, or is that true that it doesn't matter about psychology because people are getting paid the big bucks and they're not, using a whole lot of psychology?
Well, it's the hardest thing to do. Psychology, telling a story, creating a character, developing the character. Absolutely not. We're in the era where Tony Khan has a lot of money, right? Like, let's call it as it is. He's got a lot of money, and he's able to pay guys a lot of money. There's an alternative to the WWE to make a living. But if you look at the viewership, of what killed a lot of companies, if you look at AEW's viewership right now, the inflated numbers, whether it's the ratings or it's the live attendance or what tickets have been given away, it needs psychology. It has to have it. We know this is fake. We knew this is fake back in 85, 86 when McMahon took over and came in and said, "This is sports entertainment." We knew this was predetermined and giving away the secrets when Mike Modest was dressed as a mask guy, and he was on the Secrets of Pro Wrestling that was on national television. We knew that the business was opening up when PCW, SPW, NAW, RAW, all these renegade promotions just here started up. I started one, you know what I mean? So we knew the secrets of pro wrestling were the same. But as far as drawing money and telling stories, when it's done right, whether it's done right at AEW, whether it's done right at WWE, whether it's done right on the independents, it works, right? So this stuff works, and the audience is able to get behind it just as much when that psychology is there. So no, a lot of these guys don't need psychology. But the thing about it is this: if you have a guy who just bounces around the ring and does all these moves, like I was talking about last podcast, Ricochet, right? Like, Ricochet's great. Ricochet is essentially, as you move up in the WWE or dollar figures, if he could talk, if he had a character, he could be put in there with a guy who knows how to wrestle with psychology. And I see that happening a lot. I've done that a lot in my career, and I know a lot of the guys. I know probably Ugly's done that in his career a lot too, where you get in the ring with somebody that doesn't know anything about psychology, but you do, so you can lead them through a good psychological match listening to the fans, because there are different types of psychology too. So absolutely not. Absolutely not. People are making money. They are making money, but psychology, storytelling, well-developed characters. It's just like watching your favorite TV. I watch more TV series now than I do movies, because you watch a movie and the movie's over. So it's a story, but it's kind of like a short story. You know what I mean? So I like to watch seasons and episodes because we get characters brought back in, characters develop, things happen. So, I mean, storytelling, psychology is where the money is at. But he's not wrong, because you can still tell a story without actually knowing how to tell psychology in your match. So he's not, him or whoever's saying that is not wrong, because you could take two wrestlers that have no idea how to psychologically tell a story in the wrestling match, going back to something, or you know, like the elbow thing we did in Reno with me and Nick Night Train. That you could not know how to tell any psychology in a wrestling match, but as long as you got a character they dislike and a character they do like, and there is a reason why these two are fighting, you can tell a story and you can make money that way. So I just believe in psychology, man. And there's different types. So I believe in the psychology of, okay, I'm the baby face, right? And somewhere at the start of the match, the heel, I get a hip toss and I get a body slam in and I'm all fired up, and the heel fucking gets the heel fucking rolls out of the ring, because he knows that if I, as that fired up baby face, hit that third bump, whether it's a clothesline or whatever, if I hit that third bump on him, there might be a chance that so he rolls out of the ring to slow this thing down. And me as the performer, the babyface performer, maybe I go out after him and fight on the outside. Maybe I chase. Maybe I go to bring him up and he hangs me over the top rope real hard. You know, that to me, that's psychology. That I got the bad guy on his heels, and I'm getting there's a bump. There's a bump. And he rolls out of the ring to slow the pace down. But in doing that, I still go after him, or I still get my hands on him. But because I fell into his game and I went out after him, or I didn't let him get back in the ring, he was able to capitalize on me being over aggressive and falling off my game plan. So to me, that's psychology. And you don't really have to do that anymore. I teach it. I love that Ugly said he taught it, but you know, guys can just do moves and stuff nowadays. But do they need psychology, in-ring psychology to do that? No, they don't need in-ring psychology, but you do need crowd psychology. And crowd psychology, it doesn't matter if what you're doing doesn't make sense. If you don't do it at the right time that the crowd is asking for it, then they're not going to make any fucking noise anyway. So your match and your show is going to be a dud. So crowd psychology, yes. In-ring psychology, and I hate saying this, absolutely, you absolutely don't need it nowadays. But if you can do it, that's a big fucking bonus in my eyes, anyways.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. Obviously, you and I feel like are really big on storytelling and psychology, making things make sense, and giving the fans something to follow along. And a perfect example is, if the fans are paying attention and you drop an elbow on Nick accidentally because you're trying to break up the pin on somebody that's covering him, and then later on in the match it gets it turns the tables, and he's trying to make the save for you and he ends up dropping an elbow on you, and it's the callback. We've talked about the long-term callbacks of something that's happened that you can kind of call back to, and the fans can go, oh, I remember what happened with this, a few months ago or a year ago or whatever. And, in this case, a little quicker, oh, this happened this match earlier and now it's happening again. And, they can follow along. So I think, to me, that's always important. But, so many people, we talk about, the lack of attention span that a lot of the wrestling fans have nowadays. They want everything to happen now. So they're just, they want something to happen, and they want something exciting, right? They just want to see somebody take some risk and big bumps happen and things like that. So, a lot of times that's kind of what's getting the crowd excited, I think, sometimes.
Well,
good.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say, but I times I feel like it is for lack of ability to tell a good story or have good psychology, you go to that stuff because you're athletic or whatever, right? You can do the flippy fly, the flip flop and fly. You can do all the crazy, exciting moves. So that's what you go to. You lean on your athleticism rather than leaning on the ability to tell a story and having good psychology.
100%, man. No doubt about it. And I I can teach it all. Like I'm cool with the if you do the flip flying and all that stuff, man. I'm not. I used to do it. I'm not against it. And there's a place for it, and there's a way to put it in to make sense of it and why you're doing it and why you're not doing it on this match. You know, there was something as we get along the lines. I was talking with Spark today, and I saw your boy Kyle Fredericks, Eddie Thorpe, and he was wrestling Gabe Kidd. Like that was the cool part about the show was some surprises, man. There was you know, I saw Maya World, and I remember her when she wasn't even old enough to drink a few years back. Coming at it when I was down in Texas with Rick, watching her and the Leonis wrestle, and I was like, man, these girls are good. So I saw a couple good girls matches, but one thing that I noticed on the show was Carl Fredericks lost to Gabe Kidd because like Willow Nightingale was on the show and she beat Maya World, but then Fredericks lost cleanly. Both of them lost cleanly to outside talent they brought in, and the Gabe Kidd guy looked great, but I kept thinking in my head, I was talking to Sparky, I was like, man, they could have booked Fredericks a lot better. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, when he came back, even though I didn't think his promo was, I didn't think it was bad, but I didn't think it was a good promo for his comeback to the Bay Area. And he was in the middle of that West Coast ring, and he was talking about why he left WWE and his beliefs and his heritage, the Indian heritage, and he's here in West Coast to prove himself. And Sparks said, yeah, he lost his first match to Kevin Blackwood, who was the champion. And then he lost last night to Gabe Kidd. And I thought in my head, I said, well, that's the wrong booking. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, excuse me. I said, well, that promo he cut, I said, if you're coming back and you're coming out of WWE and you're a local wrestler this is going to be your new home. I said, whether it was even one victory, you got to send him out there and give him a victory and let him look good. Maybe let him look good once, maybe let him look good twice. And then I said, his second match or after a couple victories, he should have beaten Gabe Kidd. And then the fans go, fuck, this guy came in and cut this promo. He's from WWE. He's local. He's telling us what he's doing. Had a couple good matches. He looked good. Then he just beat this guy from Japan that we see on AEW TV with John Moxley. And then Blackwood just lost the belt to Vinny Massaro. So instead of having him wrestle the Blackwood guy for the title in his first match, now he's had a promo, a few victories. Now he has defeated Gabe Kidd, a big name to the local fans. And then now he wrestles Blackwood, who's coming off of his first match after losing the belt, right? After a title reign. And then Fredericks beats him. And now you have a bona fide star you've built in the company from somewhere else. And now people want to pay to see Carl Fredericks wrestle Vinny Massaro for that championship. Because now instead I got this guy, he comes in and cuts a good promo, and then he turns around and loses his first match to the champion, and then he loses his second match to a name that you brought in from outside. Now he's lost two matches after he cut this promo saying that this is gonna be his place and he's gonna do this. So build him up. Build him up. You had him wrestle. I feel like you had him wrestle the Blackwood guy for the belt way too early. He shouldn't have wrestled Blackwood for the belt. If you want to have Massaro is going to take the belt from Blackwood. There's the promo. Give him a couple good matches where he can showcase himself. Titus. There's the other kid, Starboy Charlie. I like Charlie. Couple good matches. Whoever. Zoe. Throw him out there. Just watching their content. Throw him out there. Get him a couple wins. Have him beat the Gabe Kidd guy. The guy at the 7th-year anniversary show. The fans are like, hey, this guy's on fire right now. Eddie Thorpe, Carl Fredericks, and then turn around and he beats the former champion next instead of losing to the former champion. And now you got a guy that's ready to challenge. You have a challenger that people will pay to watch. So, I mean, that goes back to the psychology, the storytelling, the presentation is, I guess, what we could call it nowadays. How are you going to present this wrestler to the audience, and are you going to continue to do it? Because we overthink this way too much, man. We overthink this way too much. What are your thoughts on the storytelling, the kind of the booking that I was just telling you right there?
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like if you're bringing this guy in fresh off of WWE, you know, this is the guy that you can start to push, right? You can put some steam behind this guy and you know, get him rolling, right? But now it's like you come in and you got 2 straight losses. Now it's like, where do you go with this guy? You know, is now are you going to turn this into an underdog story? Like, what is the story you're going to tell after losing 2 matches in a row? You know, like, and then, you know, you never want to think about this like this, but you always think about, like, is there egos involved? Like, you know, oh, I don't want to lose to this guy or whatever, you know, obviously we know it's predetermined. It's not like this guy really beat you up. This is, you know, this is storytelling. So is it a situation where maybe one guy was like, oh, well, yeah, I'll wrestle the guy, but I'm not losing to him, or what are you trying to do as a promoter? You know, are you trying to, you know, obviously in that case, you're letting them wrestle your champ. You know, it's a huge opportunity, but then your champ beats him. So it's like, okay, so this guy straight off of WWE isn't good enough to beat the champion at this company, and then now he's not good enough to beat this other guy as well from, you know, another television wrestler. So what is the story? Where do you go from this point after getting 2 consecutive losses? Like, where do you go from here? You know, we think about that often, and obviously that's something that you and I think about when we're putting our shows together, right? Who do you want to give a push to? Who do you want to you know, who can lose and not be hurt by it? Who needs a victory to get a little push? You know, you're looking at things in those aspects, and how do you build some credibility for a guy versus who can get beat and not lose much credibility?
You know, I don't know. I don't know if egos are involved or not. I know I really enjoyed the show. I was breaking it down to Spark, and I'm like, man, I really enjoyed it. But I'm always going to give, like, and I'm not even giving like a detailed critique. I'm just giving a critique as far as like storytelling wise. Like, man, that and I forgot who it was at first. I forgot who the champion was. There was this girl named she was getting a title shot. Her name was Danny Luna. And she looked great. And she was taking on Johnny Robbie. And I remember Johnny Robbie from Milo. And we had her booked on a show, but I forget what happened. And she couldn't make it down. She canceled. I forget if it was working another show or I don't remember what it was. But, you know, she let us know. But I had seen Johnny Robbie and I had liked Johnny Robbie. But my fucking word, dude, that match was bad ass, bro. That Luna, I mean, I think she Germaned her from the outside in, and like just the way these 2 girls work together. And that Johnny Robbie, man, it was just the big powerhouse versus the quick, feisty, countery girl. Her heat, her demeanor, her attitude. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, brother. I think Johnny Robbie, the other girl was great too, but I think Johnny Robbie might be the best female wrestler that I've seen. Now, I'm not saying that she had like a ton of like work in the audience, and, you know, I don't know what her promos like or anything like that. But you know me, I like mat wrestling. I like realistic shit. The presentation she gave me, her selling, her shots, her movement, her athleticism. I'm a Johnny Robbie fan. I'm gonna go out here and say it right now. Like, if you were to ask me and you were to say, hey, I thought the Willow Nightingale Maya World match was good too. I thought it was a pretty good match. Nothing compared. I like Willow Nightingale a lot, but nothing compared to that fucking Johnny Robbie Danny Luna match. Those 2 girls, if I was honestly, I'm gonna tell people right now, I don't know if you can click on that live stream or not, or still go back and watch it. But if you have the opportunity, it was a fun watch. I didn't watch the 3 whatever hours all the way through because I was in and out doing some stuff. But it was a good presentation. It was a good watch. The commentary wasn't bad. I was very, very Scott Briganti, very impressed. by what I saw last night. And I'm going to be honest with you, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, get to that link and watch Johnny Robbie versus Danny Luna. Fuck me in the butthole with no lubrication and a whole bunch of Gold Bond, man. Slap it on. I will accept that abuse to watch that match one more time. I'm not kidding, Paul. This Johnny Robbie girl is impressive. If she's got a promo in her and she's got some type of character that I didn't see because I'm just watching the match itself, this girl's going to be a major star. And maybe that's what Ugly was talking about. Maybe she doesn't need the promo. Maybe she doesn't need the but the psychology was there. This Luna, the Danny Luna, I think she's from the UK. I was telling Sparky today, I'm like, that was match of the night. And my goodness, Johnny Robbie. Everybody go check her out. I'm just being honest, man. Like I watched her and I was like, who's this girl backstage? And she's bouncing around and she came out and I just got sucked into the presentation. It was the size of the opponent. It was what they were doing. It was great. And when I mean it was great, I mean it was great. Like this was a great watch. But Johnny Robbie, man, obviously she's the champ down there, but just tuning in alone to watch that one match would have been worth it for me. So, one more thing I want to say about that show, I just want to thumbs up. I want a thumbs up on the presentation to West Coast Pro Wrestling and Scott Brigani and those guys down there, man. Killed it. And the Fredericks booking thing, a lot of people missed some things and we don't know what it was, but it was just really cool. I want to congratulate Vinny Massaro at the end because I remember seeing, a little promo with Vinny where he was talking about he's putting his 27-year career on the line for that title. And it was really cool at the end to see him win and see his students get in the ring with him and see like the all-day crew and some guys from some other places get in the ring. And it was, it was good to see Vinny. It's like 27 years later, man. This guy was in the first ever King of Indies tournament. And to see him, get this championship, he's from the Bay Area, and the flowers and the moments for him in the ring. It's like, and I can't say Vinny, I honestly can't say now, like, is he got less years left than he does to go? You know what I mean? Because we don't know anymore. And that's a piece of it. Like Vinny's a chameleon, man. He can do it all. But yeah, it was just really cool last night. I saw that link. Thank you, Sparky, for the link. And I was able to just lay in my bed and digest almost an entire wrestling show. And I had some just a little critique here and there about some stuff, but genuinely for the most part, man, I really enjoyed the presentation.
Absolutely. Well, you got to think, like, kind of getting back to Carl Fredericks, I wonder maybe, a lot of times it's like, maybe someone's not going to stick around, or maybe you go, oh, well, we're going to give a couple guys quality wins over a guy that was just in WWE, right? Maybe he's elevating these two guys with his status just coming from WWE. So maybe that's the mindset. But at the same time, it's just, I think I always think about that stuff. It's like, is this person going to be around longer where it makes sense to give them some wins, or is it vice versa? Is this person not going to be around very long, so we can use them as a springboard for some other guys to give them a little bit more push? So I don't know, man. It's I don't know. Just the way that you put it is a little, it's difficult to discern. You don't know one way or another what is going on. But I mean, I know that. I mean, he still lives in Florida, from my understanding. Last time I talked to him, he said he was living in Orlando. So I don't know. Maybe he isn't coming to the West Coast that often, or I don't know what the deal is. When was the last time? How long ago was that with the promo?
I don't remember. I know we saw it on there, but I mean, that's the thing too, is I'm going off the promo.
Okay.
I'm going off the promo, and then he wrestled the champion and lost. and then he turned around and wrestled a fly-in guy last night, which that guy looked. The guy looked great. The guy that he was wrestling, I don't think it was he was getting the guy over like in the ring that he was wrestling. I feel like the guy that was wrestling him was just very comfortable. And you can tell the difference in professionalism with some of these guys. Like Maya World, I think she's good and athletic, but Willow Nightingale, just the way she moved around the ring and her character and persona and what she was doing, you just go, that's a professional right there. This girl's coming up and might possibly be something, but I mean, there's a reason why this girl is in dark matches on AEW and working talent on Ring of Honor and other shows, and this girl is having main event special matches on the pay-per-views with Chris Statlander, who's the champion. Like you can tell why. Like the way that the Gabe Kidd guy moved around the ring and his confidence and his whole demeanor and the way he talks shit, even when he was in the defense, in the defensively selling, was it was another level, man. It was another level. That's the cool part about going and watching some of this stuff and breaking it down, is there's different levels to this thing. You know what I mean? We're so used to watching local independent wrestling, and like they had Jushin Thunder Liger at a training camp thing the night before, or a couple days before, whatever it was, and then they had him on the show. So you're seeing wrestlers with different levels of success and greater success on some of these shows, and it's really showing, man. So it's it's one thing when I watched the Limelight show, and with the new way we were filming the promos and how good the Off the Chain was, it was a very easy flowing, watchable, entertaining show. And there's sometimes that I'm watching, I'm watching my own product, man, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to. And it's not even the other product too. Sometimes it's my own product. I'm sitting there going, I'll watch it because I gotta watch it, and it's definitely going to be good for critiquing. But I didn't think this was good either. So it was nice to see. It's nice to see this thing done at other levels, because we talk about it all the time. I'm like, man, I'm not here to bash everything. I want to watch good wrestling. I want to watch good programming too. And it was good programming to watch, man. The only thing I would say about it is, you got to see all the viewership in one night. And I feel like, as the way I run my product, that could have been cut down into 4 or 5 episodes with a show that somebody could have come back and watched every weekend, and you could have laid out promos and stories and videos, and you could have kept your audience watching. I don't know if there's anything, if they got anything in the can. I don't know if anything's going to follow this except for another show, and I don't know if the presentation of the show is going to be what this presentation was.
Right. Well, and I think that there's definitely a couple of schools of thought when you come to that. It's like, you said it was a sold out show, so yep. It's not like you can get anybody else in the building. So I guess if you tried to monetize that, if you made it like a pay to watch the YouTube, a little bit of money, a couple bucks or whatever, then you could have basically kind of monetized the extra viewership of the people that couldn't get in the door, right? So you could look at it like that. I mean, you could look at it the way that you're looking at it, and it's like, yeah, I could have, these people got to see this show live, but I can also break it up into 4 or 5 extra episodes, where now the people that didn't get to see it live can watch it, in the next several weeks, right? A little bit here, a little bit there. So obviously you could do it either way. And, we think about that all the time. We talk about, a paid show versus the show that you're selling tickets off of, right? So a lot of that type of stuff goes into the promoting as well. So, it's just hard to argue with a sold out show, right? That you're like, what else could you have done better? What are you doing, dude? You're just trying to show off the tats or what?
No. Like, For some reason, man, with the way I've been lifting my weights, my shoulders and my arms, man. So sometimes I pick them up and I like stretch things out. But you said it right there. How you going to argue with a sold out show?
Exactly. So, and I think it's, you know, it's those same things, right? Do you, you know, is that the way to go? And we've talked about it in the past. You know, people ask about sold shows versus shows that you are charging tickets for, and you know, it's you'd say it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, right? Somebody pays you a flat amount of money. You know, like, okay, well, I'm gonna make this amount of money on this show, but at the same time, you think about you know, especially like you, how much pride you take in your ability to promote, that you feel like, well, if I went out and did this on my own, if I promoted this thing myself, I'm potentially going to make more than the flat amount that this people are going to pay us, right?
For sure.
So I don't know. You definitely have, you know, obviously we do a Winnemucca show, right? You know, that's a paid show, and it's you just never know, right? The first night we had thousands of people there, right, watching the show, and you think about if we would have sold tickets to all those people, you know, we would have made more money. But at the same time, you also think if they would have had to pay for the show, would they have paid for it? Would they have come? Things like that. So you always have to weigh those options one way or another. So you know, and it's hard to look at a sold out show and say, oh, you should have done something else, like, you know, because obviously in your mind you're putting weekly television together to not only get viewership but to also get people interested, so they're going to come to the next show, and the next show would be sold out. But if you're already selling out shows, what do? You know,
nothing is ever going to be as good as something that you did yourself. Like I could I keep referencing back to that show last night. Obviously, that was their show. The venue was paid for, the insurance was paid for, the advertisement, the promotion, the guys coming in. Obviously, Jushin Liger's there, so he obviously was a flight. You know what I mean? I would assume Nightingale and Gabe Kidd and some of those guys were flights coming in. There was a girl from the UK. So when you have to fly people in, when you have to foot the bill, when you have to get the live stream and the presentation, when it's your production, when it's your show, and nobody else is paying you any money, you have to go put it together what you think will be the best thing to put out there to make some money, right? And I hear a lot of people talking about, like, you know, Ugly's was talking about the psychology. Does it matter? Does it not matter? People are making money in wrestling. Well, a lot of people aren't making money. Okay. There's a lot of people who are lucky enough to make money. A lot of the people that make money off of the AEW and then get to turn around and take indie bookings can kind of charge whatever they want to charge. You know, I don't know what Hobbs charges BTW to wrestle there. I have no idea. You know, maybe he gives them a deal. Maybe he doesn't give them a deal. Either way, he's an independent contractor at that point, working for a big time company and a guy who has a lot of money. So he's getting the exposure that, you know, I always say when you go to when I go to a show, when the ring announcer gets in the ring and says, the following contest is scheduled for one fall, and the fans go, one fall. And then they go, with a whatever time limit, and they go, time limit. I don't like that. I don't want to wrestle. I don't want to wrestle in front of those fans, man. Those fans are going to do the dumb chants, and that is where the psychology and the storytelling and things change. And I believe things change, man. I believe guys get more athletic. The wrestlers get a lot smaller. They start to look the same. Everyone's doing the same shit. But if we're doing the same shit, nobody stands out. And if we're not telling stories, then what are we really doing? You know, what are we really doing if we're just going out there and wrestling? Like, are we Why are we doing all of this flippy floppy, real hitting? Why are we really slamming each other's heads into the mat with tequila sunrises and fucking Canadian destroyers and taking these German suplexes on the aprons and diving off ladders through chairs and chainsaws? And why are we really doing this? Why are we hurting ourselves if the audience knows it's fake? It's kind of a oxymoronic and a cop-out thing to say. No, let's not worry about storytelling and psychology of wrestling because it doesn't matter anymore. They know it's fake, so we don't have to do that anymore. Well, then why do we have to hurt ourselves? Why are all these wrestlers that Jim Cornette said, man, they keep wrestling that style, they're going to end up on the shelf or getting surgery? You know, Will Ospreay just had a successful surgery. They're hoping he's coming back. They're hoping he's coming back in early 2026. Kenny Omega's had diverticulitis and all these injuries, and his head's the size of a buffalo bison now, probably because he's been dumped on his fucking skull too many times, man. So all these guys are really going out there and hurting themselves and taking these apron bumps and doing all this crazy shit. Why? Why then? So if psychology doesn't matter, if storytelling doesn't matter, and believability to the fans doesn't matter because we know it's fake, then why are we really hurting ourselves if everybody knows it's fake? You know what I mean? That's even more sick, twisted, and sadistic that somebody would say the other thing, because it's like, who cares? They know the secrets. So I'm really going to break your fucking neck. You know what I mean? Like, what about that point of view? I should have said that from the start.
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, you can argue it from both sides, so, to play devil's advocate, you would say people are doing these high risk things because they're looking for the moment, right? We talk about that. We've always talked about that. Like, people aren't going to remember an entire story of an entire match, but they are going to remember some moments that happened in a match. So I think that's what people are looking for, and we talked about in the past, the Hell in the Cell, getting thrown off the cell, right? Then all of a sudden people go, oh shit, that was a moment. Everybody remembers that. It's 20 plus years later, right? People are still talking about it. Hey, you remember when that happened? So I think that's what it is. You're trying to replicate that type of thing where you go, oh, well, these people had a moment that everybody remembers, so I want to have a moment that everybody remembers, right? And you just hope that it isn't what's up, bud? You got the smelling like cookies,
pretzel. What was it? Pretzel churros?
I don't know. Something churros, pretzel churros. Blah blah.
You just said it. You just said it. The moment, right? You just said it. But you're talking about Mick Foley and Undertaker, but what are those? Those are great workers. Those are well-established characters. This guy, the psychology of it is this guy, Mankind, is willing to hurt himself. He's willing to sacrifice himself in this car accident so that he can get a chance to hurt you. And the Undertaker is the phenom, man, the impervious to pain, the dead man. So there is, as odd as this sounds, when they did that, there was a lot of fucking psychology in that. Whether people go, Undertaker's foot was hurt, ankle was hurt, he couldn't work in the ring. The motherfucker scaled to the top of a 20-foot high cage and was walking around. I think my ankle's going to hurt a lot worse stepping into unsafe, foundation fucking fencing. And what if he falls through? Then he's fucking dead anyways, which they tried to play that off. But that was psychological. There was a story they were telling to get you there. And because of a moment, if it would have been any two other characters, trust me, would have been any two other people besides them at the end of that feud with the buried alive matches and Paul Bear, if it would have been anybody else, nobody would have, it would have just been like, wow, these two idiots took a fucking huge bump off this. But now everybody wanted to be those huge idiots because that inspired the next generation of wrestlers. The Hardys, Edge, Christian, and Dudleys inspired the next generation of wrestlers. I was watching Bubba talk about being on the Stone Cold podcast, and he's like, I walked into the house and they were watching WrestleMania 17 from Houston Astrodome. And Steve was watching me and Matt Hardy fall off of things like, look at these crazy sons of bitches right here. And Bubba goes, and then Steve said, who sold out that show? And Bubba goes, Austin and The Rock, 80,000. He goes, but who stole the show? And he's like, Dudley's, Edge and Christian, and the Hardys. And Austin's like, I like this guy right here. Ha, ha, ha. But Steve Austin really in reality is going, you guys stole the show because you murdered yourself. Me and Rock sold that thing out. So glad you stole the show, but all I had to do was do a stunner and drink a couple beers and drive a fucking quad down to the ring. You know what I mean? Like, the reality is the reality. Who made more money that night? The guys who sold the ticket. Cool that Ricky Steamboat and Macho had a great match. We always talk about it. But who made the money? They made good money. But who made the most money for no work at all? Hogan and Andre. I bet Bobby the Brain Heenan made more money than Macho Man and fucking Ricky Steamboat that night. The manager.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about it in those terms, right? You think about how that used to be the reality of the situation, right? If you're selling the tickets, you're going to get paid more money, right? So think about if we tried to implement that on the independents, right? It's like, oh, well, people are coming to see, let's just say our next show. People are coming to see Bad News versus Illumide, right? That's, that's the main event. That's the guys that are on the poster. That's the headliner, right? If you go, hey, we're going to pay you guys more if we draw a huge house, right? Because obviously people are coming to see the main event, right? What if you did that? Put it like that, So then would that help people up their game? Would people go, well, shit, I got to be in the main event. I got to make the fans care. Do you think people would get would that light a fire under someone's ass to be a better worker, tell better stories, engage the fans more, things like that? Or do you think that things would go the exact same way they are right now?
I think so, because I think we've entered a time where people are scared. And what I mean by scared is a risk. You know what I mean? People are scared to take a risk to try something. Like, everyone's like, yo, you want me to be the main event guy? You're going to give me this opportunity? You think I earn it? Nobody's just kind of reaching out there and just taking it. You know what I mean? I was a guy who was like, oh, I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna own this moment right here. Like, just own it. You hear Steve Austin talking about it all the time. He's saying, man, opportunity came up, but I'm going for it. You know what I mean? Brett was like, I want to work Austin. There's a reason he wanted to work Austin, man. Because the guy put in the work to make people want to work with him. You know what I mean? You look at that card. But I feel like people are just kind of, I'll do whatever I got to do to get wherever I got to get now, right? Like, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, like the cutthroat business it was back in the day. Everyone always talks about today how Triple H was just a fucking cocksucker. You know what I mean? Like, stab you in the back, do whatever he could and not care about it. And I've heard him say in that promos before. I think he said one with Seth Rollins, like him and CM Punk had some nasty promos back and forth. Triple H had some nasty promos back and forth live out there. And I think he said one time to like Seth Rollins, he said, the problem with you is you're worried about if everybody likes you back there. He said, I don't care if they don't. He said, because if you don't got a lot of enemies, if you're not making a lot of enemies back there, then you ain't making no money. And I believe that. I believe a lot of what Triple H says out there, through his career on that microphone is the truth. And people are like, I married the boss's daughter. And it's like, That's great that you married the boss's daughter. To even be in a situation to be able to marry the boss's daughter, ladies and gentlemen, we're already here. 5 minutes remain in this podcast. You know what I mean? But I've always respected those guys. And man, I hate to say it, but I will step all over everybody. Those guys that will step on somebody to get what they want and then be able to go out and perform and execute. They're like, I'm going to fuck this dude, fuck karma, fuck bad juju. I'm going to screw this guy over because I need to get out there in the main event because I know if I do, I'm going to kill it and I'm going to own this moment. Man, there's something about that level of confidence that you just can't fucking touch.
Right. Well, there's no doubt about it. You know, and I think about when I was in those situations, you know, now I felt like that, you know, cream rises to the top, and it's one of those things where you go, you know, I was built for this, right? This is something that I'm prepared for. You know, people would always talk to me about like, well, aren't you nervous if you you know, have a show in front of a large crowd? And I was like, well, fuck, man, I was playing basketball in front of 11,000 fans in college. So there's no, you know, unless I was on a huge stage, WWE or something like that, where there was, you know, tens of thousands of fans, then maybe you go, oh, I've never been in this situation before. But when you're on a big stage playing college athletics, you know, all eyes are on you, you know, in certain situations, and you perform under pressure, you're not fazed by those type of things. So I always thought I had a distinct advantage having that type of, you know, kind of, I don't want to say upbringing, but those type of experiences that I was fortunate enough to you know, to get the opportunity to do, you know. But that's just like you're talking about now. It's the hard work that you put in that puts you into those situations, right? You need to want to be in those big situations, not just, oh, well, I guess, you know,
yeah,
we're down 2. I guess you can throw me the ball and see if I can score, right? You're like, yeah, fuck yeah, throw me the ball, man. I'll make something happen, right? So, you know, I don't know, man. I think that's just, it's a mindset for sure, man. You can't be, like you said, you can't be scared of what might happen when you're in the main event. You can't be scared that you're not gonna deliver, right? You have to be confident, and hopefully it's because you've put in the work, right? I've put in the work, so I know when I get that opportunity, I'm gonna perform, right? I'm gonna deliver on this. So, you know, that just goes back to all the work that we put in the training school, right? You see so many people that have, you know, you start wrestling matches. Now all of a sudden, you don't go to your training school anymore. You don't work on your craft. You don't try to get better. You just go, oh, well, I'll get better wrestling 12 minutes, you know, twice a week or whatever, right? That's how I'm going to get better. And it's like, well, that's not quite how it works. Then you need to be putting the hours in, you know, making it happen, whether that's visualization, studying film, being in the ring, like just asking questions. All those things I think are super important.
That's what class was like tonight. I mean, today. I even stepped outside and I was talking to Bad News, and I was like, dude, this is a pig fucking, looks like pigs fucking a football in here today. And he's like, yeah. And then I go in there and I go, what the fuck is going on with you guys? Like, I am that coach. I am that steady reminder. Oh, today I was doing something. And I look over and I'm explaining something very passionately. And Johnny Fuego's looking down. He's not talking to anybody, he's talking to himself. And he's like, smiling. And I go, what the fuck are you smiling at? And he's like, I said, I was just thinking. I'm like, what are you thinking about? And he's like, I'm like, no, really, what are you thinking about? What? And he's on the spot, and I get him in the ring, and I'm like, what the fuck is this garbage, dude? You kiss a couple old ladies, and people start chanting your fucking name, and you have a couple okay matches in the ring, and all of a sudden you're just a piece of shit at practice. Like, get going, guys. What are you doing? You have to, man. If you don't stay on top of these people, they're going to turn into shitty wrestlers wrestling on shitty shows and making no fucking money. Ladies and gentlemen, for Zack Primetime Reeb, for the Wrecking Ball Paul Isadora, hit that fucking subscribe button. We're going over. See, suckers.